Hey Tania, it's been a while since we've been together.
Yeah.
It's back to school, so let's do a little teaching.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's talk about what happens when someone's ready to buy a house. The first thing they should do is find a reputable realtor, right?
Correct.
And how do they do that?
Call Tania and Veronica.
Absolutely. Give us a call. That's how you start this process. And after that, lender.
We have a lot of lenders that we can refer. And of course, if you have a lender that you work with, reach out to them. And then sometimes you may want to compare lenders.
You definitely do. They have the perfect realtors, us. They have the lender. Now they're shopping around for the right home.
Absolutely. But what's that next step, Veronica? Once you get past the lender, get that pre-approval, narrow down your price range. You don't want to waste a lot of time looking in the wrong price range. Find the house they love. That next step is the offer.
Yes, let's talk about the offer. This is where the right realtor matters. This is where a very knowledgeable lender matters.
Absolutely.
Negotiation, negotiation, negotiation.
Veronica, our ultimate goal is to reach a price where everybody's happy. But our job as an agent is not only to do our homework on what the house is worth, but also to listen to our buyers.
Just last week on Friday, we did that very thing. You had a buyer who wanted to offer significantly less than what a property was listed for.
We ran some comps, and actually we did that together. It was a team thing. I was able to present what my opinion of the property was worth. I was able to present my suggestions to the buyer, but ultimately she was still stuck on what she could spend. And so my job was to listen to her. We started the negotiation where she wanted, and we found that sweet spot. That's where the agents on both sides of the transaction are so important. Either one of us could have killed the deal.
Completely. And we've seen that happen.
We have.
Now they have the right agent, they have the right lender, they found the perfect property, negotiated the price that worked for both sides. In the midst of that contract, we have several elements to consider. We have to consider earnest money, closing costs, whether or not the home was built before 1978 because it has to deal with lead-based paint. One of the most important elements on these contracts are dates. There are dates all over the place, especially if someone's financing.
The number one thing your agent needs to stay on top of, and more important than negotiating, more important than inspection even, are your dates.
We definitely have to stay on top of that. We're talking dates. We have due diligence. Well, let me back up. Earnest money, we typically get earnest money within 5 days of going under contract.
Yes, it's typically 1% of the purchase price.
Then we have due diligence. Due diligence is another element that gets negotiated. Sometimes you might want to go 5 days or 10 days or 7 days. It's all relative to what works for your client and for the seller.
And we started with a 10-day due diligence, and the other agent negotiated a 7-day due diligence. So we ended there. My job then is to get the inspector in there as soon as possible.
Once again, having a knowledgeable realtor, we have resources. There are inspectors, and then there's the inspector. We hire the inspector for our clients, or encourage our clients to hire the inspector for their homes.
If the client doesn't have an inspector they prefer, we have phenomenal inspectors.
We have to get to financing. Some homes are cash purchase. In a cash purchase situation, people may still want to get a property appraised. So that's still available. They can get appraisal, and that too has a date. That too has a contingency period. They might want to go FHA, conventional, USDA, VA, and we'll talk about those with the lender at another time.
There's your finance contingencies. No matter what route if it's a loan, you want your finance contingency, and that's another date that you better pay attention to.
Let's just touch on, what does contingency mean?
Veronica, if something falls through, then you have a way out and receive your earnest money back. Let's go back to due diligence period. During that 7-day period that we're in, my client can choose to back out for any reason and receive her earnest money back.
And that's in the state of Georgia. Other states may have certain reasons and some parameters around getting out of their due diligence period. But in the state of Georgia, you can, during that due diligence time, back out, no harm, no foul, and you might be out of your inspection costs, but your earnest money is protected.
And a lot of times we don't set the inspection date until we're sure that our buyer wants to move forward, because
Yes.
we don't want to waste that inspection money.
Exactly. That's very significant. So in the midst of protecting the earnest money during the due diligence, we're protecting that money during the contingency.
You want to pay special attention to that finance contingency date and the appraisal date. Your financing is protected. Your appraisal is protected until that date. If your financing falls through or appraisal is not met after those dates, then you lose your earnest money if you back out. So if your home doesn't appraise, there's no negotiating if you miss that date. Lose that negotiating power. If you can't get financed, you're going to lose that earnest money if you miss that date. Dates are super important. I can't stress that enough.
All of our contracts in Georgia are very transparent. The terms are explained, definitions are explained. Our real estate board here in Georgia, phenomenal. Thank you that our contracts are clear and self-explanatory.
They're very solid. A builder who doesn't necessarily need an agent, he says that he will never ever not use an agent because of our guard forms. They just protected him from a lawsuit recently, and they saved him $75,000 with that lawsuit from him using the agent. So was the agent fee worth him using the agent?
Absolutely. Oftentimes people want to purchase a home without a realtor, and that's your choice. But if you've never done this before and you're working with a seller who has an agent, some of us can have 10 to 15 transactions in a year. And as a buyer, you've only purchased one home.
Well, that's another part of the contract. When there's a line where we have to put if the seller is an agent or related to an agent, and that's for a reason. If you're going up against a professional, there's a reason that has to be disclosed.
Yes. So one of the most important dates on the contract is the closing date. Now, typically our closing dates are about 30 days, but that varies. Cash purchases can close within 10 days. Some people may need more time. They may have another home to sell. Then they need a for sale of home contingency, and that can turn into a whole nother conversation.
You also get the pre-occupancy, the post-occupancy, and there's so many details that can go into a closing date. And like you said, if you're selling another home at the same time, that date is more important than ever.
In the state of Georgia, you are required to have a closing attorney to close a property.
Yes, but honestly, Veronica, you wouldn't want to close without one. And one of the most important things they do is a title search, title insurance. Again, that's protecting the buyer, and you wouldn't want to close the property without that protection.
I completely agree. As we're navigating through the contracts, we also have a special stipulation area for you to enter in any sort of special conditions that are not included in the contract.
You may want a termite bond. You may want to have a survey done. You may want to have a septic inspection. There are so many things you can put in that area. Just remember that when you're negotiating the contract, that you don't want to overwhelm them with special stipulations. But again, that's another conversation with your realtor.
When I purchased my home, you know that I didn't know where my septic tank was.
That's one thing that we always do as a realtor is we ask for the septic plat from the county.
I wish my agent would have done that, and I didn't know enough to know that at that time. I kid you guys not, my septic tank was underneath of my concrete porch.
That was costly.
$2,000.
Who did you use as a realtor?
I'm not going to mention. I will not name names.
That was before you became a realtor.
Yep, but I share no names. Just always know where your septic tank is.
Well, that's another reason why you want a professional to take care of your contract and your negotiations. We've seen it all.
I don't know all. I'm sure there's some things that might shock us. I'm sure there's something out there shocking. But we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.